Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. My name is Mark Vlasic. I split time between running an international diplomacy firm in Washington, D.C. called Medicine, Law, and Strategy Group. I teach at Georgetown University. I'm also a TV producer and film producer in Hollywood. But what brings me here is none of those things. It's my deep faith, both for something greater than all of us, also for the United States. And it's really because I've been hoping to have a panel like this for years here in Davos, to allow people to tell a bit of a faith journey, because when we come here to Davos, you're expecting to hear from people about the intersection of money and power. But for so many people around the world who spend a lot of time trying to make this world a better place, there's oftentimes a faith story behind that. And that's a story we don't usually get to because we're too busy networking and getting stuff done. And the hope for this panel was to provide a little space for folks from all different backgrounds to share a bit about their faith journey and how that has been a critical part of their life or what they're doing and how they think it brings people together. And so for me, this is a unique moment, and I think it's a compliment to you all because you also woke up early for this exact panel, and it's a treat to have you here. So what I'd like to do is invite our speakers to share a bit about their leadership journey and how faith has been part of that leadership journey. Mr. Prime Minister, let's start with you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here together with you and discuss this very important topic. From the time when I was political prisoner and then prisoner of war during occupation of Serbia, through liberation of my country and then declaration of independence, I found faith to be indispensable for both courage and trust. On one hand, we certainly in politics need ideas that lead us, but at the same time, ideas only will not bring you much further from initial steps. In order to reach goals that can serve the people, it is crucial to have sense of togetherness. And that's the moment when faith translates not only into courage for leadership, but also into a sense of being together with each other and trusting each other. And to that end, optimism, hope that I do have as Prime Minister nowadays is based very much on our faith of a just cause, where we have both economic growth and we distribute it among the people to those who are most in need. And at the same time, we make sure that everyone is heard and nobody is marginalized. So definitely faith has been a crucial element for two main components of policy making. In one hand for struggle and on the other hand for service. Struggle in different hurdles and obstacles that you turn into challenges that one shall overcome. And service as service to people who are the meaning of our function as politicians.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Keith.
Faith has been like a spine, I think, in my life journey. It seems like I've had a new chapter every 5 or 7 years. So I grew up in a place called Rocky River, Ohio. My dad had a 5-person machine shop in a good times. Two people, it was just me and him in the tough times. I was welding at age 12. And he was a man of deep faith. Matter of fact, I think on his deathbed when the priest gave him his last rites, I knew the priest, I said, hey, what was the worst thing he did? He goes, he really feels bad about missing church one Sunday. Okay, that's my dad. And I was an altar boy and all that. And then when I went off to college at Purdue, I joined the Sigma Chi fraternity. And the emblem of the Sigma Chi fraternity is a white cross. And that's where a lot of the values that I were taught were really articulated and stuck in my mind. And things like courage, wisdom, integrity, high ambition, self-control, courtesy, and fidelity. Those are the 7 ideals of the 7 founders of Sigma Chi, and that carried me on in my business career. And and then I get tapped to be the youngest General Motors vice president. I'm at 26. I'm jumping in water over my head. And many times it was a serenity prayer that guided me. And then left there, went out to Silicon Valley, and I thought I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life because I went out as the number 2 guy of a software company. And the CEO said to me, Keith, I want you to say this to the board. I go, Maria, I will not say that. That would be lying. And I go, oh man, I just made the biggest mistake of my life. I stuck there for 9 months. I thought I could turn the culture around, but finally, she wanted me to come miss the birth of my son, and I basically told her to do something that's anatomically impossible to do, and I said I quit. And then, the other thing, to your point, is if you've been given a lot, you got to give back a lot. So it's the service side. So I went back. I became the international president of the fraternity. I went back to Purdue, became the chairman of the board of trustees, and then I got a chance to serve the government as Undersecretary of State running U.S. economic diplomacy. And I'll tell you, I needed my faith for that, no doubt. But it was, an absolute wonderful journey. And now I get this opportunity to be the CEO of Freedom 250 and to see how the founders of our country were guided by their faith. People came here because of freedom of religion, their faith. You could see the history. Abraham Lincoln leaned on his faith. You can see 9/11 brought people together because of their faith. And I think when we look back at this anniversary year and the next 250 years, I think faith is going to play even a bigger role, and of all faiths. So I think it's just woven right into that journey.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. What Keith's too modest to say is when he was the Undersecretary of State, he played a key role in a hostage negotiation I worked on, and 4 people are back home with their families celebrating their faith and their relationships because of his hard work. That actually applies to Benedict as well. So Benedict, you also have the floor next.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Mark. And can I just point out that we've had sessions like this at the Munich Security Conference for years. I just wanted to make this point. So it's good to be here. You know, when I was sent to boarding school at the age of 13, super privileged background, never known hardship, first night at boarding school, a Benedictine abbey in the middle of nowhere in the UK, I lie down in my bed and I look up at the bottom of the bunk bed above me. And it has this quote, "The only thing needed for evil to triumph is for good men to lie down and do nothing." There was, I was this little 13-year-old, very posh guy looking at that and going like, what? I've never, ever gone to bed and slept without thinking about that one sentence. And it's what drives everything that we do at the Munich Security Conference, and it's what drives everything that I do in my private life, whether, as a normal citizen, as a member of the German army, or as a Knight of the Order of Malta. And what we've been trying to do in Munich is to have a discussion on a very simple but sad truth. How is it that religion and faith, which could be the cement, the glue of this world, are in many places doing the exact opposite? Divide, destroy, sow hate. And so for years in Munich, there are these almost secret sessions because people feel uncomfortable talking about this elephant in the room that we've done a bad job, particularly in the last century, of using this wonderful tool of faith-based dialogue for good. And so when you're done with Davos and you come to Munich, trust me, there'll be many sessions about what we can do to not lie down, but stand up and fight evil. So come to Munich, end of advertising block.
Thank you, Benedict. Pastor Kim.
Yeah. The story of religion being used to divide is very much the opposite of what my family's journey has been. So my father was a refugee who escaped communist North Korea, literally traveling through the fields. When he went to South Korea, eventually met my mom. Christian organizations were in South Korea after the Korean War, putting the country back together again. Pentecostal, Presbyterian churches, the Catholic Church. In fact, my father ended up getting a medical degree at the Catholic Medical College. When they got married and moved to America, I was born in New York City. Some of my first memories were growing up in the basement suite of a large Catholic family who taught me how to ride my big wheel and get to the park. Then I think about the Lutheran pastor who was instrumental in helping my parents understand America. And then there was the Baptist youth pastor that in college introduced me to Jesus Christ. And my own journey of faith became integral to who I was as a person. In terms of leadership, I work with the National Association of Evangelicals, with organizations that are doing good throughout the entire world. I think of a visit that I had with humanitarian organizations within our network in Malawi, Africa. And there in the village are Christians that are working together with others, people of other faiths, to create sustainable farming practices, to help marriages stay together, to equip women who have been battered and abused to find meaningful employment. Recent visits to the Union Gospel Mission in central LA. There, homelessness is being tackled by people of faith. Great study was done by Baylor University about the importance of faith in tackling homelessness. And one person concluded that homelessness, people don't become homeless because they run out of resources, at least not at first. They become homeless because they run out of relationships. Faith communities provide an opportunity for that relationship. Then I think about the suburbs. Harvard did an interesting study following 66,000 women for 16 years. And what they discovered is there was a 68% decline in incidences of deaths of despair, deaths by suicide, alcoholism, drug overdose, if they would just attend a worship service once a week. So whether it's in a village in Africa or an urban center with homelessness or a suburb that often can feel lonely, faith communities have an opportunity to make a tremendous impact in society.
Beautiful. Thank you. Kelsey.
Faith. My daughter's name is Faith, my 13-year-old daughter, and we called her that based upon the idea. My wife and I had suffered a couple of miscarriages after we married, and we were sitting in a church, St. Paul's in Manhattan, where I used to walk by there on my way to school when I was a teenager. And I reached into one of those little baskets where they have like sort of thought stones or whatever, and I pulled out the stone that said faith on it. And we both started to cry a bit, and then realized that if we were going to keep trying to have kids, we were going to have a child, and we promised at that point we were going to name that child Faith. And it made me think at the time, my relationship with faith has always been sort of uneven, mixed. I'm not necessarily known as a religious man. I did a movie recently, well, about 4 years ago, called The Jesus Revolution, where I played a pastor, Chuck Smith. And at some point, I was doing one of the morning shows, and somebody said, "So what's this thing about faith? Well, you know, what's your deal with that?" And I said, "Well, honestly, I believe in Jesus Christ. And I don't go around saying it a lot, but I'm also not going to deny it." Well, that set off a big firestorm. I suddenly became a guy who was a big faith guy. And I think I've always been a faith guy. It's just that I called it, I wrote a book recently about my sister who was killed. And I said I always had a limping faith. But it started when I was a child, Sunday school, and Jesus was my best friend. I mean, I thought, this is it. This is my connection, my touchstone, my relationship with the universe came through this doorway called Jesus. And it was wonderful. And then my grandfather died when I was 12, and now I lost him. I lost him, and I lost that doorway. But I kept bumping into it. I started surfing. Who would have thought that'd be my faith journey? But that was part of it. And I dropped into a wave one day, and I suddenly thought, oh, I'm surrounded by God. Everywhere I turn, I see God. I see beauty. I see wonder. And I thought, well, just swallow that idea. And so I was 16 years old at the time, and I decided that was how I was going to live my life. I was going to try to swallow that piece of God that was always with me and project it onto other people when I would meet them. And I guess I've had some success with that. So I started a beer company a while ago called Faith American Brewing Company. And that's how I actually ended up getting here. I was doing a speech 5 months ago about why I started the company and what I believed in. And the fact is that I have faith, and I also have faith in America. I love this place. I love this journey. This is what's most important to me. My country is, I think, the repository for the most positive energy in the world. The energy that says we can do whatever we want to do. We can do what we imagine is possible. Unfortunately, the thing I'm here for is this 250 for 250, which is 250 days for 250 years of our history, which we celebrate each day. But the point being, with faith and with the foundation of the idea that anything is possible, we can still do extraordinary things. And what we've done in our country lately, America, is teach our children to hate themselves. Everybody talks about how important it is to have high self-esteem, but then they tell them that they come from a crap country. And I think, what's wrong with these people? What have they done to us? What have they done to our children? And of course, our children need us to come back online and say, this is a place of possibility. This is the place that's backed up by God. Imagination, creativity, kindness, love. I was at a dinner last night where everybody started talking about, fixing the world and whatever they were going to do, but nobody mentioned faith. And I thought, well, I guess, as you said, religion can take a bad turn once in a while. But the thing we have in common is we were all created by something. Unless you're an atheist, and then you created yourself, I guess. So that's fine. But this had a creator. So if this has a creator, well then surely something as extraordinary as the human being probably had one too. And that's what I believe in. And I believe that looking at all our endeavors through the lens of faith and a kind of a reliance on it, even when we feel betrayed by it, because believe me, when some of the tragedies that occurred in my life, I've thought to myself, you know what, I'm fine right now. You don't need to bother me anymore. Go away, God, for a while, please, because I'm up to here with it. But then, of course, that little voice would sneak back in and say, no, you believe in this, because this is truth. And so faith is truth. Truth is love. God is love. Here we all are.
I can't imagine a more beautiful way of ending this session than those exact words. Pope Francis talks about our human family, and I want to thank all of you, our human family, for being with us here this moment. And I think for me, at least, this moment will be the best moment I have here in Davos. So thank you for sharing it with us, and thank you to our incredible panel.
Bless you.